What's up, guys? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more of our videos. Also, make sure you follow us all over social media so you don't miss any of our content or show announcements. All right, let's talk a little bit of Bucks Pacers, and then we'll get to our mailbag, and then we'll get out of here for the night. So the main adjustments I noticed from the Bucks, they started switching almost everything, especially with Brook Lopez in ball screens with Tyrese Haliburton. With Damian Lillard, they used basically kind of a switch and scram scheme. So, like, if Dame ever ended up on a big, whether it was Siakam or Turner or someone like that, they would just basically have him rotate out of it and bring another one of Milwaukee's bigger wings to come in and rescue Dame out of those mismatches. And the Pacers just absolutely fried every single coverage the Bucks tried in this game. Tyrese went absolutely crazy against Brook in switches. And, like, that sort of thing would only work with Brook Lopez if you are a strong backside rotation team. And the Bucks just aren't. They haven't been a strong backside rotation team all year. And he just started cooking Brook immediately. Drove right past him on an early possession, kicked to the corner for Nesmith for an easy bucket. Had like a really nifty step-through lefty scoop shot off the glass on a switch against Brook Lopez. Had a play where he kind of hesitated and looked at the rim like he was going to take a jumper, and Brook took like 2 steps out to the top of the key, and Tyrese just went right around and literally made him look like he was stuck in the mud. Had a dunk. He blew by him for a drop-off to Siakam in the second half. Finally, late in the game, Brook was like, I can't keep getting beat off the dribble, so he just played way back, and then Tyrese burned him by hitting a 3 right in his face at the top of the key. So, like, that didn't work. The Pacers even looked super prepared for the scram switches, and this is something I want to credit the Indiana coaching staff, Rick Carlisle and his guys. We saw the Bucks do that with Dame quite a bit in the regular season, and so they clearly scouted it, and they were ready for it. There was one where Dame scrammed out to the left corner to get Obi Toppin, but right as he was sprinting over there, Obi just cut back door through the lob, and he got a dunk. There was another one where he was sprinting, like literally he was in the process of sprinting to go to Nesmith in the right corner. The Pacers identified it immediately. Swing, hit Nesmith in the right corner. He knocked down a 3. They were going at Dame just one-on-one. They realized that he can't get a great contest on pull-up jump shots, so they were hitting pull-up jump shots in his face. They just were prepared for every single thing that the Bucks tried to do. Still did a lot of just damage in transition in this game. Out of their 108 possessions, 45 of them were logged by Synergy as pushing the ball with pace. And on those possessions, they logged a 124 offensive rating. TJ McConnell did a bunch of damage on like semi-transition drives in those situations before the help defense was set up. And I remain just completely impressed by Indiana's collective team jump shooting. They were 7th as a team in jump shooting in the regular season. They averaged 1.07 points per jump shot as a team throughout the throughout the season. They got 1.23 points per jump shot in game 1 and 1.22 points per jump shot in game 2. They have just consistently burned the Bucks every single time they've made a mistake. And that was honestly the hilarious part about the late game comeback, right? So the Bucks actually cut this lead down to 3, I believe, late. It was 2 or 3. I think they actually cut it to 2. It was 115, 113. A couple of things that were working offensively. Same Giannis offensive rebound putbacks around the basket. Bobby Portis hit a couple threes. Dame hit a big 3 at the top of the key. They hit some shots. But on the other end of the floor, the Pacers were still getting great looks, and they just missed them. Like, Tyrese Haliburton got a wide open look in that stretch that he missed. Miles Turner got a wide open look in that stretch that he missed. Pascal Siakam got a wide open look in that stretch that he missed. They were just open looks that the Pacers were missing. And so what was funny is Dame hits the shot that cuts it to 3, and then on the very next possession, they leave Pascal Siakam wide open again, and this time he makes it and effectively ends the game. It's a really weird kind of like double low man look from Bobby Portis and Kyle Kuzma. Miles Turner was sitting around the right block, and Kuzma went way inside of Miles Turner, and so Portis and Kuzma were both standing inside of Miles Turner, while Siakam was outside of Miles Turner, way out at the three-point line, just to try to kind of set up the geometry for you guys. And it was as good a look as the Pacers got all game. And so it's one of those things where like it felt more like a fake comeback there from the Bucks late, because they were still conceding the same shots they had been conceding all game. They were just hitting on one end of the floor, and the Pacers went cold for a little bit. On the Bucks front, it's really hard to come up with real solutions. There isn't really a coverage they can run with Brook Lopez that works. Like, if you run a drop coverage, that's suicide against Tyrese Haliburton. He's got all the mid-range and floater shot making, right? If you run a high drop coverage, Tyrese is arguably a top 3 or 4 pick and roll passer in the league, probably closer to 2 or 3 pick and roll passer in the league in terms of just making basic reads on where the low man is and where the screen defender is. And if you come up and put 2 on the ball with him, whether it's a high drop or a blitz or anything like that, he's going to pick you apart with the pass. Then if you switch, he's just way too slow-footed to be able to handle Haliburton in space, and the team doesn't really have a backside kind of like rotational fly-around athleticism element to compensate for the dribble drives that Lopez is going to give up. So they don't really have a coverage there that works. Portis and Kuzma aren't exactly defensive answers. Like I talked about it, the Pacers were still getting open looks. I would probably still go with them and still switch like they have been, especially with as well as Bobby Portis has been shooting the ball. Kyle Kuzma did finally I felt bad for Kyle early in the game. He smoked 2 wide open layups. No, I shouldn't say wide open layups. They're tough layups. He had a kind of a step through layup against a small attacking mismatch, and then he had a pass from Giannis where he was right at the rim that he just smoked. And it looked like it was going to keep spiraling, but he just kept being aggressive, and he did finally manage to bring some scoring pop to the table. I do like the idea of leaning into those 2 more and switching. Most of it is going to be about process from there. You have to run good offense to avoid precarious transition situations. So, like, someone tell Kevin Porter Jr. that he shouldn't even look at taking a shot unless there's like 3 seconds on the shot clock, or if it's like a wide open shot in the coverage, like it's a drop coverage and they stay with Giannis and you've got a layup, or they die on the screen and you've got like an all day a pull-up 3, something like that. That's fine, but there were way too many possessions. There was one where like Giannis was demanding the ball on the block, and Kevin Porter Jr. took a pull-up 3 on the right wing, and the Pacers just ran out and got a bucket off of it. Like there's certain like offensive process stuff that you have to do in order to avoid those transition situations. And then just in general, just setting up your floor spacing in a way that you still have guys that are back and ready to contend with the Pacers in transition. The Dame thing is interesting. I thought Dame was an absolute nightmare on defense tonight. He ended up providing 14 points on 13 shots, if I remember correctly. I don't have the box score up, but he wasn't exactly a super efficient scorer. I get it. Like, you almost feel like you have to play Dame. I don't know how you explain to Dame or to your fans the idea that like you're going to like sit him or limit his minutes in a series like this, because if you lose and you have Dame's just sitting on the bench, that's a really, really tough pill to swallow if you're a fan, right? But it's just tough because Dame is out of rhythm, clearly, and he brings a lot of defensive issues. And so, honestly, it's just a gamble. I get it. I'd probably make the same gamble, but like I wish there was a way to manage it in a way where like you almost like come up with a minute restriction or something to kind of ramp him up over the course of the series. It's far more likely that in a game 5, 6, or 7 that Dame brings more offensive pop than he did at this phase in the series. And tonight I thought he probably did a little bit more damage than good. And so it's just honestly a really, really tough position to be in if you're Milwaukee. And as you dig into it, it really just comes down to roster issues. Now, this one, I'm not ready to bail on my pick yet. The Bucks could certainly regain control of things in Milwaukee, especially if Dame gets going. But it doesn't look good for them. And the matchup continues to present some clear problems for their defensive scheme that have been on display throughout the first 2 games.